The restaurant was quiet except for the clinking of glasses and soft chatter of business people closing late-night deals. At the corner table sat Ethan Carter, the man everyone in New York knew as the cold, untouchable CEO who built an empire out of nothing. But tonight, he wasn't here for business. Tonight he sat across from his 7-year-old daughter Lily, her tiny legs swinging beneath the chair, a plate of pasta in front of her. Ethan's life had always been about numbers, deadlines, and power, but Lily was the one part of his world that softened him. She was his reminder that kindness still existed. As they laughed over silly stories about her school, Lily suddenly stopped mid-bite, her wide blue eyes fixed on something, or rather someone near the entrance. A young woman sat alone by the door. Her clothes were worn, her face pale, her hair tied back in a messy bun. She wasn't eating, just staring quietly at the menu, almost like she was trying to pretend she belonged there. "Daddy." Lily tugged at Ethan's sleeve. Her voice was soft but carried an urgency that only a child's pure heart could hold. "She looks hungry. Can I share my food with her?" Ethan turned, slightly irritated at first. He hated interruptions, but when his eyes landed on the woman, something inside him shifted. She wasn't just another stranger. Her eyes, they carried the same exhaustion he remembered from his own mother when she used to work 2 jobs to keep him fed. He cleared his throat, adjusting his suit jacket, but before he could respond, Lily was already sliding out of her chair, her little plate of pasta wobbling in her tiny hands. "Here," she said shyly, walking over to the woman. "You can have some of mine." The woman looked up, startled. For a moment her pride seemed to want to refuse, but then her lips trembled and her eyes watered. "Oh, sweetheart, thank you. But I can't take your food." Ethan stepped in, his deep voice surprising even himself. "You don't have to take hers," he said gently, "but you're welcome to join us." The woman hesitated, but something in his tone, warm, sincere, uncharacteristic for a man like him, made her nod. She slid into the seat beside them, her hands shaking as the waiter brought another plate. Over dinner, Ethan learned her name was Grace. She had recently lost her job, and with no family nearby, she was struggling to make ends meet. She had walked into the restaurant not because she could afford a meal, but because it was warm inside and she needed a moment to gather herself. The conversation flowed unexpectedly easily. Lily giggled as Grace told her stories about the silly customers she used to serve at her old diner job. For the first time in years, Ethan found himself listening, not as a CEO analyzing a deal, but as a man realizing how much kindness could change someone's night, maybe even their life. The twist came when Grace, embarrassed, tried to excuse herself after dinner. She reached into her worn purse, pulling out a few crumpled dollar bills, insisting she pay for her part. Ethan pushed her hand gently back. "Grace, you don't owe me anything," he said. Then, after a pause, he added words he never thought he'd say. "But maybe you can help me with something. I've been looking for someone trustworthy to help care for Lily when I'm at work. Would you consider it?" Grace's eyes widened. "Me?" Lily clapped her hands, her face lighting up.
"Yes, Daddy, please."
"She's nice. I like her." The tears slipped down Grace's cheeks. For weeks she had prayed for a miracle, for something, anything, that would give her a chance to stand again. And here it was, handed to her by the kindness of a child. That night, Ethan realized something too. His daughter's simple act of offering her food had reminded him of a truth he had buried under boardrooms and contracts. That humanity is built on compassion, not power. Grace became part of their lives, not just as help but as family. Lily found a friend, Ethan found a reminder of humility, and Grace found hope again. And it all began with one innocent question from a little girl. "Daddy, she looks hungry. Can I share my food for her?" The restaurant's lights glowed softly, casting warm golden hues across the polished tables. Ethan Carter, the man everyone whispered about in Wall Street circles, suddenly felt human. Not the CEO, not the billionaire. Just a father, sitting with his daughter, watching her heart shine brighter than anything money could buy. Grace, still stunned, sat with her hands folded tightly in her lap. She kept glancing at the door as if she didn't belong here, as if someone might come in and tell her she wasn't allowed to sit at a table with a man like Ethan. But Lily's laughter broke the tension again and again. "Grace," Lily chirped, twirling a fork of spaghetti, "did you know my daddy never eats his broccoli? He tells me I have to eat mine, but he never does." Ethan nearly choked on his drink, shooting his daughter a playful glare. "Lily," he muttered. Grace giggled softly, really giggled, and for the first time that evening, Ethan noticed how young she was. Early 30s, maybe. But life had carved deep lines of struggle across her face. Still, in that laugh there was life, and it did something to him he hadn't felt in years. The waiter returned, offering dessert minutes, but Grace immediately shook her head. "No, thank you. Really, I should go. I've taken up too much of your time already." She began to rise, but Lily reached out, grabbing her hand. "No, stay. Please. Daddy said you could." Ethan leaned back in his chair, studying the woman before him. She wasn't asking for pity, and that made him respect her even more. Most people who sat across from him wanted something. An opportunity, a deal, money. But Grace only seemed desperate to keep her dignity intact. "Grace," he said firmly, his voice carrying that CEO authority but softened with something rare. Warmth. "Sit. Have dessert with us." "That's not a request." For a moment Grace hesitated, then slowly lowered herself back down, and so they shared cheesecake and laughter. For one evening, the walls of wealth and poverty, of power and struggle seemed to dissolve. When the night ended, Ethan offered her his driver to take her home. Grace resisted, insisting she could take the subway. But Ethan's instincts told him she didn't want him to see where she lived. He respected that. Instead, he handed her his business card. "Tomorrow," he said. "Meet me at my office, 11 sharp. Don't be late." Grace blinked in shock. "Your office?"
Yes?
Ethan said simply. "You're not just leaving with a meal tonight. You're leaving with a chance." Her lips trembled. "Mr. Carter, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Lily chimed in with a grin. Grace swallowed hard, tears glistening in her eyes. "Yes." The next morning, Ethan sat at his office, floor-to-ceiling glass windows overlooking Manhattan. For the first time in years, he wasn't dreading the day ahead. At exactly 1100, Grace walked in. She was nervous, wearing the only neat outfit she had, but she stood tall. Ethan didn't offer her a corporate job. Instead, he asked something far more personal. "I need someone to help care for Lily," he said. "Someone kind, someone I can trust, someone who sees the world the way my daughter does." Grace's eyes widened. "Me? You'd really trust me with her?" Ethan nodded. "Last night, she trusted you without hesitation, and my daughter's judgment has never been wrong." That was the moment everything changed. 2 weeks turned into months. Grace became more than just a caregiver. She became family. She cooked with Lily, helped her with homework, and even made Ethan laugh during late dinners when work had drained him. One rainy evening, as they sat together in Ethan's penthouse, Lily curled up in Grace's lap with a blanket. Ethan found himself watching them quietly. For the first time since his wife had passed years ago, the house felt like a home again, warm, alive, and all because of one question, one small act of kindness.